Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Good morning, Keith. I'm fine. How about yourself?
We're doing great. The topic for this podcast is there are levels to all of this. And when I refer to all of this, I mean to your practice of working on yourself. And I think about how sometimes when you're working on something, you feel like, oh my goodness, I've really gotten good at accepting change in this area, you know, and you're probably right. And then something will happen, and that will be another example of change. And you're like, oh my God, I'm not good at this at all. Like
Yeah,
I thought I had this mastered. And it doesn't work like that. The way that it works is that life will continue to show up in a way that allows you to continue to work on yourself at an even deeper level. And so you may have mastered one level of accepting change, but there's several levels to it. And then it'll say, okay, handle this one. So for example, one level of change may be, hey, listen, we this paint color that you had your hard set on for your bedroom, we have to go with a different shade of that color. And you're like, okay, I can handle that. And then your significant other may walk through the door and be like, hey, listen, I think it's time for us to go, separate ways. That may be a change you're not ready for. And so you could be discouraged, like, man, I'm doing all this well-being practice and I'm working on myself and I'm meditating. I'm going off to this retreat. I thought I had this thing lit. Not so fast, my friend. But it's easy to become very discouraged when you are, on the court of life with something else that challenges you in a different way. But one thing is true, it's all there to help you go deeper, to go deeper. And I found that to be really true. Just when I think that, hey, I'm a person who doesn't care what other people think about me, or I don't define myself based on whether people validate me or in. Okay, before you go out and make all these blanket declarations about how enlightened you are, life is going to show you a couple blind spots. And the key is to not be discouraged, but to root yourself back into what you're about. And the main thing is letting go of yourself more and more so you can be more conscious. What are your thoughts, Rick?
no, I couldn't say it any better, Keith. It's the recognition that you're never a complete master of any of it, that you have to be completely mindful every day of what your behavior is. And I don't think you ever get to a point where, at least for most of us, I can't see myself getting to the point where nothing would ever bother me. The key is it still bothers you, it still takes a toll, but can you let it go? Can you be conscious enough of what it is that is causing you suffering to let it go? And usually it's your own perception about it.
Right.
Um, it's we're all. It seems to me I was always having an argument with reality. Why is it this way? How come this sort of thing happens? Why me? And of course the answer is why not you? So I think there was I can't remember the name of the Buddhist thinker who was talking about how people wanted to think their way to happiness and think their way to joy. And he was describing a group of people who had come to him for help. Why can't we, envision something that would be better for us and so forth. And one of the questions that he always seemed to get by new people to the practice was the idea of the concept of suffering. Why is there so much suffering? Why is it so terrible? And his answer was no reason.
I love that.
No reason, right? And then a little further on in his teaching, he would come to the point where when the people would accept that, he would get to the point where you have to understand that not only is there no reason for suffering, that it exists because it exists, that as long as there is life and there are humans, you're going to find flies and Buddhas, flies and Buddhas. And I think those two concepts to me really help me keep in mind that I'm always looking for reasons why there's suffering. And I'm always irritated about the flies of life. But the reality is the flies balance out with the Buddhas, And if you let go of the idea that there has to be a reason for suffering, I think you get a little closer to understanding that a lot of what is outside of our control is really, really important to let go of. And that's where I end up, letting go and being detached as much as I can from things that tend or used to tend to upset me. But the key is, I think, being mindful of it, just being aware of it. I was aware of yesterday, we were talking about thankfulness in another podcast. And yesterday in my practice, my law practice, somebody asked for an extension, and it was like their second or third extension on a deadline. And usually lawyers give the extensions. And of course I did in this case. But then I didn't get a thank you back. And I thought, well, what is this? Holy cow. I saved your bacon by giving you extension. And you didn't say thanks, and that's just another reminder to me of how far I've got to go on this path, because I wanted that person to be grateful to me and all of my elegance for giving them this extension. Instead, the reality is just to be mindful of your reaction or my reaction to that. Be mindful of it, that I'm expecting something and that I can't control, and I let it go. And it feels so much better because I haven't thought about it until this moment. Where in the old days, I would have fumed about it for a couple of days, or I would have tried to maybe, I don't know, somehow make a mental note to get back at that person. Nah, no. Life's too short, man, especially when you're this age.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. I'm with you. I mean, God, there's so many gems there of what you said, and one of them, the biggest one was the awareness of it. Like that's my way out from the suffering.
That's right.
Is to be aware of what my mind is doing. Like it's the one that's making a problem of this current situation. There is no problem here. My lack or my resistance to accepting what is doesn't mean not taking action, but I want to take action when I'm in a peaceful state. But my resistance doing that, inability to handle the reality of the situation, that's just spot on. And that is literally my way out. That's how I get to the next level. That is the key that unlocks a door to the next level, is awareness of what my mind is doing, what my heart is doing, because they're twins. One affects the others, and then we're off to the races, and it's suffering on the other side of that. There's no happy ending when those two start to get in cahoots, and they're not being, led by my consciousness. And so that's just really good. I was just thinking of another example of exactly about it being levels to this, and being constant, staying humble about it. That there are levels too. Just when you think you've licked something else will hit your stuff, and it's if you're not aware, you will go down that rabbit hole of suffering, and you'll be there for a while. So I'm inspired by you pulling yourself out when you granted that counsel, the extension. That's beautiful, Rick. That awareness. And we're going through a move right now with ToBeRe, moving from one location to another. And I've been really good about not being worked up over anything, any kind of, delay with the flooring or, painting, whatever the case may be. I've been pretty good about it, up until this point. But I'm aware, but that doesn't mean that along the way, my stuff wasn't hit. There was stuff that was hit, like, you start planning, you got expectations. So we can move on this day. We can we can have our first class this way. The mind just starts planning. Like no one gave it the green light to plan, but it's planning, about what needs to happen for this thing to be considered a success. And so you can check everything off, but life doesn't often work that way. I'm not saying don't have a plan, just don't be attached to the plan. And I think that's one of the things that I've done well, but I am not doing any kind of victory parade. We're not holding any kind of press conferences, because the minute that I do, I'm going to find out there's another level to this. And so I just want to stay, as you said, to experience equanimity inside, nice balance, so that I can just proceed, peacefully as life unfolds, and hopefully, I can minimize the suffering along the way. But I am totally clear that there are levels to this. there are a lot of levels to this, and it just accept what happens, and that becomes my work.
Yeah, beautiful. That's right. The first step is always monitoring, just being aware of it. And if you can just practice, and this is what I learned myself in this idea. If I could just practice not having an opinion about the way things should be or how they should turn out, or whether my expectations were met, if I could just limit my opinions, my life improved significantly. And it continues to improve. But every circumstance that used to bother me still bothers me until I realize it's a dead end. It's a dead end. I mean, I think the people have maybe a misperception about what the practice ends up doing for you. I think it does lead to inner peace and a sense of equanimity and a sense of balance and a sense of purpose and a pride and a hopefulness for all humanity in a way. I think it really leads to that. But it's not without these little ripples. It's not without going through a practice of letting go of something that's deeply hurtful. I think those are tough things to do, but they are really powerful. They yield powerful results if you can let it go.
Absolutely. Rick, thank you so much. I love you.
I love it, Keith. We'll check you out next time.
All right. Thank you.